Hi, welcome to Real Management Talk with LJ and Jocelyn. I'm Jocelyn.
And I'm LJ, also known as LaFauna Chambers Lawson.
And this week we're so excited to be back with you. We've got such a great topic. What are we talking about, LJ?
Today we're talking about getting rid of those stakeholders and clients from hell, also known as getting the client divorce.
Yeah, the client divorce, right? It's the thing we don't want to talk about. In fact, it's amongst coaches, consulting firms, even sometimes retail stores and stuff, right? It seems like it's taboo because you would never, ever break up with a client.
Right. You would never want to stop that source of income, but it's so much more than that. And that's why I'm happy we're having that conversation today.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I know sometimes we have clients that we've really come to an end of our engagement with them, and we've been trying to help them for the future, but for one reason or another, it's not working. And a lot of times that really is just an honest to goodness talk with them. And usually, at least for me, what I found, like this week, we had an honest conclusion to an engagement that we had with a client.
Tell us what happened.
Client and I both were like, this is where it's at, and we're good with it, right? And so you can have those types of what we call breakups, but those oftentimes aren't. They're just breakups in the minute, or for a season or whatever, because those are the type of clients that if you've built a good, long-lasting relationship with them, you're more than likely going to do something with them again. But what we're talking about is some of the clients that, I'm going to be just honest, guys, have been the clients from hell, and how that can happen, because it can happen on both sides. Because I'm quite willing to say here on video that I have made some tremendous mistakes.
Absolutely.
And taking on clients, right?
Right. And I think I'm so happy you pivoted to that, because that's exactly what this conversation, the foundation of this conversation, is making sure that you take the time that's necessary to really get to know each other. You have to vet one another before you go into these, sort of contractual relationships to get these projects off the ground and, to turn around successful projects. There's so much that goes into that process, but I'm thinking about you having to recently say goodbye to a client. I said goodbye to a client about 2 weeks ago, and a lot of the reason why was because some of my top reasons for accepting a client is because they're respectful of my ideas and of my professional opinions. They seem to be willing to make sure that they can pay me within almost immediately, within 2 to 3 days of when I send them my invoice. I don't even do net 30 anymore. Not in the private sector. For government entities, for my government contracts, I'll do the net 30. But for even with those, I give them a percentage off of the invoice if they pay it within 10 or 15 days. I want to get my money fast. And so if I see that in a private client, that's going to make me want to work with them. And then the third thing for me is always about how responsive they are. If I send you a text message, how long does it take for you to respond? If I give you a call, do you normally, if you can't get to the call, do you send me a text message, or do you, send me an email saying, hey, I'm on something else right now, I'll get back to you. That communication is just so critical and so crucial to me in deciding whether or not this is someone that I want to take on, right?
Right. Well, but let's reverse that, because I've experienced this. And guys, I hate to say this, but I experienced this more with nonprofit businesses, whether it's the founder or it's the ED, or even if it's their development people, sometimes they're board members, which is we've gotten the work done, and we get it there on time, for plenty of time to meet a deadline, and they just ignore it. And then when they get around to it, they expect you to drop everything to get their deadline done. And I don't know about you, but I know that over the years, at least for me, it's gotten to the point of like, I don't operate that way anymore. And I'm really clear with people that I'm not going to operate that way. And, you know, I've had clients that have had to submit, say, their own grants because they didn't. And that hasn't been, you know, that has been an ongoing pattern for like over 20 years.
Right. I mean,
it
it's
just
like
sucks your energy.
exactly. It's very exhausting, but then it goes to, so I take on those clients and, but I don't take them on in the way that I think most people think I would take them on. When I work with clients that are hard pressed, they've got something that needs to be submitted within the next week or the next 2 weeks. And we're talking a massive application. You've got to have your risk analysis done. You've got to have, you know, your budgets taken care of from the organizational and from the program perspective. You've got to have audited financials. You know, sometimes I take on those projects if they pay my premium, because I'm not going to lie to you. I charge, you know, from my hourly, it goes up about 75%, you know, when you put me in a position like that. So if they're okay and willing to pay that price, then I'm more than happy to shift the other projects that I have in my portfolio around to accommodate. But that's one part of it, the payment, of course. But the second part of it is, who do you have on staff? Like, who's going to be working on this particular project as the lead? Because I'm not the lead, right? I'm there as a consultant. I'm there as the advisor. I'm there for the strategic, you know, feedback and guidance and oversight. That's the capacity that I come into when you wait until the last minute and it becomes an emergency for both of us.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Well, and I often say there really aren't emergencies as much as there is poor planning and poor time management, and not real time management, because honestly, time management's a whole different subject we can get into. But you know, I often say that, but you know, I'm going to tell you about it. I'm not even sure you know about this. So, you know, you want to talk about years ago, in a different part of the country from where we're sitting right now. I took on a client that had come highly recommended to me, met him and his board, you know, learned what their organization was all about. And at the same time, I took on another client that quite literally, I met them at dinner at a Japanese restaurant. We were sitting across from the hibachi table together. Okay. Now, the two of them, you would have thought that these guys had it, were the mess, and these guys had it all together. Well, it turned out to be the exact opposite for my team and I. And the company that didn't have it together, the gentleman who founded it quite literally at one point got really, really sick, and asked my team and myself and to go along with him to his doctor's appointment. And when we initially said no, he sent his best friend to talk to me, and it was kind of one of these really weird situations. So we ended up in this situation that we were like, what the heck happened here? You know, and I swore after that, no more. You know, we're done. And so my tolerance level, if somebody's really disrespectful, whether it's to me or to the team, if my team, I mean, I'm going to preface this, if my team's disrespectful to a client too, I'll be honest, I'm real honest, that's the fastest thing that will get you fired.
Absolutely.
And I don't care if you're the client, and I don't even care if you're paying the majority of my bills. I mean, and I think that we don't talk about this enough, because it's not good for us physically, mentally, or anything else to take things on. Now, you and I both work with a lot of nonprofits, and because of that, what we recognize is that there's some things that are systemically, unfortunately, within the nonprofit culture that creates this kind of chaos. So we try, I mean, I know at least me, and I'm pretty sure you, based on us knowing each other, we really try to work with those clients to get them out of that chaos, you know. So it's almost like we expect it initially, but yeah,
And
you know.
I like that you said it's I like that you said it as it is. It is chaos. And you know, coming into the business sector, right? You're looking nonprofit, for profit, I mean, whatever their structure is. We're talking basically every day there's a fire, we got to put it out. Okay? And if it's not, then you might be a more mature organization who's got, you know, there's a control room for that, right? The
Right.
control room people are taking care of all the fires. But for the most part, you know, even with those more mature organizations, even you're going to see every day could potentially just be a new doggone day on the job. And I think, especially like you said, though, with the nonprofit organizations, I think it does go into the roots, into the fundamental, into the epistemology, I would even say, of what a nonprofit is, how they're supposed to function, how they're supposed to operate. Yeah, you know, it's about being cagey. It's about being opportunistic. It's about, you know, being innovative. It's about being visible and staying visible, right? And all those different things manifest, unfortunately, into chaos because you're constantly trying to pivot, right? That's everybody's new
Right.
favorite word now. With the coronavirus, everybody wants to pivot. What does that look like? Stop romanticizing these things, okay? You shouldn't be burning people out, because the reality on the ground is for people like us and for those, you know, executive directors, those program managers, those program officers, those board members who are just volunteering their time and not being compensated. What that means for these individuals is that they are being burnt out, and you don't care because you are more concerned with the bottom line, with staying visible, with, you know, getting in front of each and every opportunity as it's announced. And that is wrong. It's rotten at the core. That's why I think you see so much chaos, especially around the SBA and the PPP and the EIDL, all these wonderful opportunities. Don't get me wrong, wonderful opportunities to try to keep your business afloat during a very difficult and uncertain time. But so many people jumped at these opportunities either for the abject wrong reasons, totally wrong reasons, or just because of a lack of knowledge of these particular funding vehicles, these products,
Right.
and not really realizing that there's other opportunities, there's other ways to get the support that you may be needing, but you have to begin with budgets. So many people came to me asking me, you know, hey, I know you're the grant lady. Can you get me grants? No. I go back to them, I say, can you get me budgets? Can you get me some sort of, you know, program data? Give me some historical data. What have you been doing? How
Right.
long have you been doing it? You know, let me know who you are, what you're about. And then I can accept you possibly as a client and possibly join. Because that's the other part of this that we need to talk about. I know we don't have a lot of time. But what I want us to talk about is we have to fire clients. And you tell me if I'm wrong. We have to fire clients because at some point, keeping them on compromises and jeopardizes who we are.
No, you're totally not wrong at all. It does. And I think I said to you at some point here in one of our conversations someplace that, you know, it's like it is sucking my soul dry. Because what happens when we're in business, and if we've been in business long enough, and even if we ran a business full-time for a while and then we side hustled for a while and then we went back to run full-time, it doesn't really matter, you know, about whether it's full-time, part-time, whatever it is. What really happens is as our business matures, as we learn more, as we mature as business owners too, our businesses shift and change. A healthy business does shift and change. And sometimes this is why you'll get things. I heard this example the other day, but it's true. So Play-Doh, for instance, wasn't Play-Doh like we know. Play-Doh was actually a household cleaner that pivoted when they realized there was, I forget what had happened economically or something like that, but, you know, So what did they do? They pivoted it, and it's Plato today, right? Well, it's a perfect analogy for a business. A business can start out one way. You can start out doing different services. Like my company today looks nothing like it did 20 years ago when I first opened the doors. I mean, back then we were a full-blown economic development site selection company that occasionally did some nonprofit work because we happened to be in a part of the country I was rurally, and I knew how to write federal grants and everything. So that was in demand too. And it was in demand for me to do strategic planning. Well, we don't even do that today. Today, we more so are a training and coaching company. And we train people how to do stuff, and we do very little consulting. And when we do the consulting, we do it at a premium price. So it's not, I get a lot of people who come to me too about the grant writing. And we let them know now, we can teach you and your team. And, if you really want somebody, we've got people we could refer you to, but when a client gets to the point that you are so emotional, especially, I mean, I've seen guys do it too, but ladies, let's be real for the ladies who are listening to this, okay? When the client is making you cry, not just hit your head against the wall and you're, wanting to punch something, but literally making you cry, that should be your signal that you need to fire them immediately. Okay, because it is not worth it. Because I'll guarantee you're not serving the rest of your clients well. You're actually doing a disservice to that client by keeping them on.
Well, yes, but then the other side of this, right, is at what point do you say to yourself, I know my value, I know my worth, I'm crying because I'm frustrated. We're going to find a way to, maybe I can find another point of contact, maybe we can keep this work going, but it just, we can change the scope, we can change the performance management plan, we can do something to allow for this thing to continue, this great work that you're so heavily invested in to continue, but it just morph into something different that you can, handle a little bit better. Because you already know the emotional side. I mean, I've cried out of frustration. I've cried out of, eustress, whatever. Sometimes I can be a very emotional person. And I tried to not let that be the barometer that which I measure against if I'm happy in life or if I should continue to do something. I think that we are at a place now as people, where I think it's more acceptable now to have, to express certain emotions, right, and to let those things out, let them pour. I just don't want people to think that, oh, this stresses me, I need to run away, because there's a whole generation out there right now that's like, listen, if I ain't getting no money for what I'm trying to get done, and if I can't be happy every day, I don't want nothing to do with it. And I think that that's very defeatist. I think that that's not going to help these people build resiliency and really be able to clarify who they are and what it is that they want to accomplish in life. Right.
Well, and I don't want to give everybody impression that even I walk away right away. You do.
You never have.
You literally do try to do everything that you can to salvage the situation, or just get the project done, or rework it. But sometimes I had a client that, unbeknownst to me, and it was a stressful situation going in, and I knew what that situation was, even taking them on. And so it was a thing of, I had to have the whole discussion with myself, my team, and with myself again about, did we want to take them on? And we chose to do that. But the stress of everything through that slightly over a year engagement was so stressful that it got to the point where we finished all the initial work and everything, that finally just went, we're not going to continue, because you know, I mean, it wasn't just me. I mean, it was like the whole team. And I think sometimes, but I think that as business owners, a lot of times we'll just keep going, I need the money, or I need this, or I need that. You know, in my case, that wasn't the case, but there was this emotional investment in there too. And, you know, sometimes we mess all of that up to just go, you know what? And the truth is, they're happier. We're happier. Everybody was happy when we all just finally decided to pull the plug, you know. And so sometimes you do that too. You got to recognize, but you know, to me, you should always try to do the best that you can do to at least honor your word and honor the commitment that you made.
Right.
But sometimes,
but like you said, there should always be, you
yeah,
should always
I mean,
be able to say,
yeah,
you know, we need to have this conversation. Let's figure out, you know, where are we in the project? It's similar to what I did last year. I had a client, he was, you know, he was very, he's a wishy-washy kind of character. And I thought that I could, you know, be the smart one in the situation. And that's part of the other issue as business owners, is sometimes we go into these situations and we see, you know, we've got our rosy colored, you know, glasses on, and we're like, you know what, we're going to make the best out of this situation. And, you know, you get involved, and, you know, what you thought you forecasted would likely happen actually happens. And it just so happens a little bit sooner than anyone would have expected. Just like a bad relationship, right? People tell you, hey, that person's probably not the right one for you. I know they're fun.
Exactly.
And they're really crazy, but they probably are not the best choice in terms of someone that you want to settle down with and be stable with, right? And that's the same thing with clients. We just have to be real with ourselves and say, you know, listen to that intuition, you know, pay attention to how they're going about scheduling your conversations. Are they clicking, you know, when you send them a calendar invitation, do they accept the calendar invitation, or do they just let it sit, right? Those types of things that are really subtle, but they really speak volumes in terms of how likely that a client or stakeholder is going to respond during your business relationship. So I'm never running out of time. So what's our final thoughts?
So, you know, I mean, the final thoughts are just to not let anybody, what we're saying is you really need to think through your client relationships sometimes, and you know, have honest conversations. But as a business owner, start with the honest conversation with yourself. I mean, the saying is really true. Every problem you have in business starts with one person, that person in the mirror, which is typically you as the owner. And every solution starts with that one person in the mirror, which is you, that business owner. And, you know, being that, I mean, it's not, sometimes we don't get things right. It's like in dating, it's like what you were saying. You know, sometimes we see that shiny object and we think that it's really good for us, right? So that, there's many more things as we were talking that I'm like, oh, we got 3 more subjects, guys. At least got this conversation that we're probably put down to talk about. So,
next week's going to be fabulous.
Yeah. So
I'm just going to close out with one word, and that's inference. You know, that's the impetus for me calling the company Tacit Growth Strategies. It's because of inference. Everything is about inference. Nothing becomes better without understanding inference. So I think when you're thinking about divorcing clients, always be cognizant of what have you inferred about all of those interactions that you've had with those clients. Inference.
Mm-hmm. And that's excellent close. So guys, that's it. It's a wrap for this week. We will catch you probably next week. At least that's what we're thinking.
Next week, guys, we're going to make it happen.
No, we really will see you next week. All right.